I'm going Bowser, Sephiroth, and Super Saiyan Kaioken on them. Best believe that when I'm done, they know that I ain't playing with them anymore. I'm going Kamehameha and shit. Destructiveness, I ain't the one to fuck with.
What's up, my wizards? It's Dev. From Mtg, we like magic, and right now, all eyes are on Pro Tour Ixalan, which means that for the next week or so, a lot of content creators are going to be focusing on, like, $300 and $400 decks. I can see how you get sick of that really quick. So today I'm going to offer sort of a balance, and we're going to do a really fun, super budget, yet competitive deck. And the best part of it all, big plus here, you get to play a bunch of dinosaurs. We're going to do $25 mono red dinos today. Well, let's start off by looking at the creatures, as usual, and one of the most important creatures in the entire deck, amazingly, not a dinosaur, but we gotta play it because it helps our dinosaurs. We're gonna play 4 copies of Otepic Huntmaster. Well, most importantly, Huntmaster is ramp. You know, we're playing like 5 and 6 drop dinosaurs in this deck. We'd like to get to them as quickly as possible. Really don't want to have to wait till turn 6 to play our 6 drops. So that's what Huntmaster is mostly there for. But even after his ramp ability is kind of over and done with for the game, the ability to give your dinos haste is still a really good thing. You know, we've got a few dinosaurs in the deck that already have haste, but some of our best dinos don't. So being able to have the ability to just give any old dinosaur haste is actually really important because you want to swing with your big lizard guys the turn you play him. And sort of the floor on Huntmaster is that he gets removed. You know, everybody's like, oh, he's got 2 toughness, he can just get killed. Like, yeah, that can totally happen, but then that's a removal spell they've already used that they won't have for one of your big, dumb, threatening dinosaurs later on in the game they have to do something about, or they die. If they wasted a removal spell on Otepic Huntmaster, you're kind of up in a way. The only other non-dinosaur creature in the entire deck is Captain Lannery Storm. I just like saying her name. But the captain right here, Captain Punch, is actually awesome in this deck. It's really good for pressuring the opponent's life total early on in the game. Love that it has haste. And it's also ramp, which again, we're playing huge dinosaurs way up there on the curve. And this is just another way to cheat them out a little earlier. Captain Storm is also just kind of versatile. She's just a good card against a lot of decks right now, you know. You get her down early against control, especially on the play. She can do a quick, like, 2 to 6 damage for you and leave some treasure behind so you can ramp into your big dinos. Just kind of does an awful lot and can do damage quickly against certain decks. But it's time to show you what you come here for. We're playing like 20 dinosaurs in this deck, which is a lot. That's more dinosaurs in a monocolored deck than we played in the red-green dinosaurs deck. So that's pretty cool. That's because red has a bunch of really good, powerful, like super threatening dinosaurs, and a lot of them are pretty cheap price-wise. So let's start at the very bottom end of the curve as far as the dinos go here. With 4 copies of well, Nest Robber kind of does an impression of Earthshaker Kenra for what it's worth. You know, it doesn't do all that extra stuff, but a 2-mana 2/1 haste is yet another creature in this deck that can do really fast damage against certain decks. You know, against control, it's a really good start to play, especially again on the play. To play like second turn Nest Robber into a Lannery Storm, that's not a bad start at all. Plus, Robber looks a little bit weak, I know, but against some decks, like especially decks, again, that prioritize removal over playing creatures, they're not going to have a bunch of blockers, especially in the early and mid-game, so they're going to have to remove it at some point, thus burning a removal spell they could have used on a much bigger dinosaur. You know, that comes into play here, too. And even before they remove it, it can do a quick 2, 4, or even 6 damage for you. So just that little bit of early game damage is going to really matter when we start playing our huge stuff. Well, to finish off the 2 drops here, I'm just going to play 2 copies of Raptor Hatchling. I just kind of want to fill out the curve a little bit, make sure we have enough early drops. You know, we've got Huntmaster, Nest Robber, and just a couple of copies of this because I wanted 10 2-drop creatures. It has been a little bit impressive, though. You know, it starts off pretty small, but if your opponent kills it, whether by blocking it or it chump blocks, or maybe they even spot remove it, you suddenly have a much, much bigger creature. Like, your opponent doesn't want to remove this guy, and sometimes that's good, but this takes what I've been talking about with Huntmaster and Nest Robber to the next level, you know? If they do waste a removal spell on it in the early game, not only do you get a bigger creature, but that's a removal spell they won't have for your bigger stuff later. Now, our 3-drop dinosaur is Rampaging Ferocidon. This is the most expensive card in the deck at about $325 or $350 right now on TCG Player, and it's trending slightly upwards, so you might want to go ahead and grab your copies. There's a reason it's so expensive. It's probably the best dinosaur in the deck, hands down. Now, we are playing 28 creatures, so sometimes our own Ferocidon will sting us for a few points of damage over a game, but we really don't care because Ferocidon is good against almost everything. It's really, really fantastic against the tokens builds right now. Against an Anointed Procession, this card is ridiculous. And obviously against something like Anointed Priest, it completely hoses that whole strategy. So against those builds, this card is phenomenal. But it's still good against like mid-range strategies and control strategies where you get it down, and it's really, really hard to block for the rest of the game. All in all, this is just one of the most above-curve dinosaurs that we have access to. You know, a 3-mana 3/3 is a good deal right there, plus the menace makes it above curve, plus players can't gain life, that matters sometimes, and the ability to sting players whenever they play a creature is actually kind of important. You know, again, against Anointed Procession, that it just kind of completely shuts their entire strategy down. And we're racing in this deck. We got a lot of creatures with haste and stuff. We're dealing a lot of early and mid-game damage. So the fact that this does damage to us doesn't necessarily matter, because we're, at least theoretically, doing more damage to them quicker than they are to us. So if they play creatures, they're putting themselves in a really rough situation where they're taking extra damage they really don't want to take. Now, our 4-drop dinosaur is Bonded Horncrest. We're going to play a playset here, and there was some competition between Horncrest and Thrash of Raptors. Thrash of Raptors is kind of known as one of the all-stars of Ixalan Limited, but as far as constructed play, I think Horncrest is a little bit better. Not to mention that Thrash can be killed by things like Lightning Strike and Abrade and other red removal spells, where you won't have that problem with Horncrest nearly as much. You know, this is where things start getting really big. A 4-mana 5/5 is really good, and even if you don't play it on curve, this is a really good dinosaur to give surprise haste to with the Notepic Huntmaster. But on to my favorite dino in the deck, our 5-drop is 4 whole copies of Charging Monstrosaur. Talk about Ixalan Limited All-Stars. This is probably one of the top 3 or 5 cards in all of Ixalan Limited, and I think this does make the jump to Constructed pretty well. It feels like playing a Reality Smasher, and that's pretty high praise. The trample is surprisingly relevant, by the way, and just the fact that we have a bunch of creatures with haste a little bit earlier on in the curve, and then on turn 4 or 5, we can drop a 5/5 trample haste to swing along with all the other dudes we've already played. Like, this can end a game really, really fast. And honestly, turn 4, if you got a Huntmaster, turn 4 Charging Monstrosaur into turn 5 Charging Monstrosaur is sometimes game over, and there's not a whole lot they can do about that. And we're going to top our curve off and finish off the dinosaurs with 2 copies of Burning Sun's Avatar. I really, really like this thing. Now, I had this card pegged as good since the first time I saw it, and I really, really wanted to play it in red-green dinosaurs, but I just didn't feel like we had the red support for it. But in mono-red, it obviously goes in. We will definitely have 3 red mana by turn 5 or 6. If, you know, hopefully we can ramp into it with Huntmaster, but it's still decent on turn 6. This is a format where 6 drops are somewhat viable. You know, people are playing Vraska and stuff right now, and honestly, this is pretty impactful as well. You know, you can almost always kill a creature, whether it's a Rogue Refiner, a small Long Tusk Cub, a Whirler Virtuoso, whatever. There's a lot of stuff you can kill with a BSA and hit them for 3 and have a 6-drop that's resilient, again, to most removal in the format. I just don't see, like, what's wrong with this card. Well, that leaves room for 8 spells in the deck. Not a whole lot of room, but there is a pretty good removal package that consists of just Shock and Lightning Strike. We're going to play playsets of both of these. Well, what makes this removal package so good is that it's super versatile right now, you know? Against control decks, this is extra reach, you know? We may peter out or even get swept in the mid or late game sometimes. And we're not super resilient against board wipes, so sometimes just drawing in to a Shock or a Lightning Strike can end the game. Deal that last little bit of damage that you need to do to clean things up. But against aggro and mid-range decks, these will pull double duty, you know? They can hit creatures, which means that against Ramanap Red, which is arguably a faster and better aggro deck than we are, just because it plays more expensive cards and has access to things like Hazoret, you know. It's good against that deck. It can help make sure that they don't do too much damage to us in the early game, and we can just outclass them with things like Charging Monstrosaur and Burning Sun's Avatar a little bit later on in the game. We can play safer against them with cards like this. Same thing with Temur Energy and other energy-based decks. Things like even a lowly Shock can kill a Long Tusk Cub on the turn they play it, and that's incredibly relevant. Now, we're playing 25 lands in this deck. I want to play all 25. So we've got 4 Charging Monstrosaurs. We're playing a couple of 6 drops, you know. So I think it's really important that we get our drops in this deck that doesn't have access to a lot of filtering or card draw of any kind. So want to make sure we get those drops. As far as Sunscorched Desert, I'm not going to play all 4 here because I want at least like 22 red sources. We're trying to get all 3 red sources for Burning Sun's Avatar. I think that's important, but I still think it's important to play some Sunscorched Desert. Well, here's our super simple and very, very budget sideboard right here. We're getting close to $25 already, so we don't have a whole lot of money to spend on this sideboard. But Release the Gremlins is one of the most important and therefore most expensive cards on the board. It's about a quarter right now, and I'm only playing a couple of them, but it's really good against Godfarer's Gift and any and all artifacts in between. But on that note, we're also playing Demolish in here. We're playing Demolish not only against artifacts, but also against lands. That's kind of important in this format where Search for Iskanta is going to flip into an Iskanta against a lot of decks. Whether it's an approach deck or a blue-black control deck, Iskanta is an important card, and Demolish can help take those out. It can also kill Adanto, Legion's Landing that's flipped over, and that's kind of important in some matchups too. Puncturing Blow is in there. It doesn't do anything against Hazaret. I wish it were an answer to Hazaret, but it does kill the Scarab God, and that's important enough to be a 3 or 4 of even option in a very budget red sideboard. At least it's an answer to that, and it's really the only answer in this color. So Puncturing Blow is good for that at least, and it's a whole penny on TCG Player. Well worth the investment. Chandra's Defeat is the other most expensive card in the board. It's like 20-25 cents right now on TCG Player, but again, very much worth it. It may be the best card in the sideboard at the end of the day because it can kill Glory Bringers, and that in and of itself is important, but it also kills 99% of the creatures in Ramen Apparad. And here are your power rankings right here. A final score of 58, not bad for a $25 deck. That's a lot of fun and is actually, at the end of the day, a pretty effective mid-range deck with a lot of really good turn sequences, There's a lot of stuff in here that is no joke, like turn 2 Huntmaster into turn 3 Horncrest into turn 4 Charging Monstrosaur. Swing 10 is crazy and actually pretty likely because you're playing 4 of all of those cards. I mean, Huntmaster is great. Honestly, it really brings things together and is our big payoff card for playing Dinosaurs for the most part. But even if you don't get your Huntmaster, a turn 4 Horncrest into a turn 5 Monstrosaur is still a really good turn sequence that you can swing 10 on. But the deck's specialty is pressure, The deck pressures the opponent's life total really, really well, and it just puts huge threats on the board on curve every turn, even into the late game. And that's really tough to interact with sometimes, and it's really proactive, Your opponent's going to have to interact with this, or they're probably going to die, Especially against a control deck that didn't draw a grip full of counterspells or removal in the early game. They're going to have a tough time with you. So just the ability to get starts like Nest Robber, Lannery Storm, and, eventual Charging Monstrosaur or Burning Sun's Avatar. That's just so much pressure, and your opponent can't ignore it. So give this thing a shot. It's basically a big red deck, a red mid-range deck, and it's got a lot of the tools that it needs. A creature like Monstrosaur, I really can't praise enough. It's one of the centerpieces of the deck, and it makes it what it is. This is a classic mid-range finisher creature, and it's good in this deck, and it's great against like token strategies and stuff that wants to chump block you. So there's a lot of really, actually very good cards in this incredibly budget deck. Give it a try. It's worth every penny of $25. But I'm tapped out for now. Let me know how you felt about this one in the comments section and what you would have played different to me. I'm always interested in what you're interested in. So, and if you have any ideas for upgrades or anything, let us know down there in the comments. Comment section's a cool place to hang out. So go down there and let me know how you felt about it and how you do it differently than me. And remember, if you want to see this whole deck in one place at one time and it takes like 30 seconds to view it rather than a 15-minute video from a dude on his couch, you can also just click the very first link in the description box right down there, and that'll take you right over to TCG Player. They help sponsor my content, and they help keep the deck techs coming. So make sure you click on that link, check it out, because just clicking on the link helps my channel. TCG Player calls me up or they email me, they're like, hey, you're doing good with those links, buddy. And it makes me feel good, so make sure you do that. You can also like the video if you like the video. It gives me warm fuzzies. You can sub if you haven't subbed yet. What are you doing? Sub to the channel. Hit the bell for the notifications. Bunch of deck techs and Pro Tour Ixalan coverage coming up. And there's actually spoiler season is right around the corner, so you want to be subbed for that. You can also follow me on Twitter at SBMTGDev, or you can throw me as much as $1 on Patreon at patreon.com/SBMTG. And if you kick $1 into the Patreon pot, you get to know what decks I'm doing the day before I put those decks up. That's valuable information. You want that. But that's pretty much all for me. Enjoy the rest of Pro Tour Ixalan. It'll probably be wrapping up around the time this video comes out, actually, What do I think's going to win? I think it might be Sultai Energy. That's what I hope wins. What I hope wins is the Jeskai Approach of the Second Sun deck. That would be awesome if that won, but I don't think it's going to be that. I think it might be Sultai Energy, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I may be wrong or incredibly right. We'll see. But we're incredibly wrong. But in any case, that's all I got for this one. Thanks for watching, my wizards.